What's up, guys? I'm Mason James, 4-star receiver committed to UW. Let's do it. Go Dogs.
You are Locked On Huskies, your daily podcast on the Washington Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into another edition of the Locked On Huskies podcast. I'm Roman Tomashoff. That guy down on the end over there, that's Lars Hanson. He writes with me over at Huskies Wire. And that gentleman in the middle is, as he did a phenomenal job of introducing himself, is 4-star wide receiver Mason James from Norman North High School in Oklahoma, one of Washington's latest commits. We're super excited to have him on the show today. Thank you for making this your first watch or first listen of the day, as we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We got a lot of fun stuff coming at all the everydayers out there today. We're going to talk about some recruiting updates at the very end, maybe some guys that Mason's going to be trying to recruit to play alongside him here at UW. We'll get to that in a little bit because we have so much fun stuff that we want to talk about with Mason. We like to talk official visits, this process of committing to Washington, so much. So, Mason, first thing, the typical recruiting question. I told you this was coming beforehand, and I'm sorry, but tell Washington fans why you made this decision and what the Huskies are getting in a receiver like you.
So I feel like I made this decision because it was best for not just me, but my family also. But one of the main reasons, it's a great football program, a great school. I really love the city of Seattle. I feel like offensively, I'm a really great fit to fit in Jed Fish's offense. Kevin Cummins coaching me at wide receiver is awesome. And also Caleb Wilson was also going to be a big help with that. So really just being the combo receiver coming in. I'm looking to play pretty early, doing whatever I can to get on the field. I'm one of those guys that's going to go up and get the ball. I have speed, elite hands, really great ball tracking, and I play pretty big, so I might be 5'11", 5'10", but I'm going to be one of those receivers that goes up and gets the ball and play bigger than I am. I also chose Washington just because it's really family-like feeling. When I came there, the whole staff knows me and my whole entire family. I really just love my whole me for just as a person, I would say, and also my little brother. So it was really great just getting there and feeling all the love.
So a lot of guys seem to think like when they came on their either official visit or maybe towards the April, May, June period is when their interest in Washington really started to pick up. But the more we talk, like with Derek Zaman and a few other guys, it really seems like January was that time period. And I know Kevin Cummings made a couple, visits out to Oklahoma to come see you. Is that kind of when things started truly brewing for you? Like, hey, like I actually feel like this is a special connection where, other schools are great, but there's just something special about Washington and Cummings.
Yeah, I would probably say the first time he visited my school for the first open period, he's one of the first coaches to come. Sat down with my head coach, and then right after that, came to my house, sat down, talked with me and my family, and just like the talks that we had and like the demeanor he had behind everything he was saying just felt very special and different to me for sure than what other coaches were preaching to me. And after that, like he came down 2 more times, which is the most a coach could come, and that also shows a lot how big of a priority I am for Washington. So just feeling that his demeanor and the effort that he put in to fly all the way down from Washington 3 times, which is the most any coach can come, is really awesome. And just the things that he was telling me, he always stuck to his word, never changed up on me or anything like that. So I'd probably say it picked up from really the day that he came. I got offered pretty early on in my recruiting process, but I would say it was kind of a little shaky. But that was just because I would say I was still my sophomore year, not really knowing if I wanted to go that far or whatnot. But junior year, after Casey came to my school that first time, was really just took off ever since then.
So a couple things for you here. One, before you got that offer, before you started talking with Coach Cummings, how much did you know about Washington? And then, if assuming it being a guy from Oklahoma, it might not have been very much. What were the biggest things that stood out to you when you started doing your research about UW?
To be honest, I didn't really know much. I know they went to the national championship, Michael Penix, Roma Dunes. I know those few guys, but other than that, I didn't really know too much about the program, to be completely honest. But yeah, as I started going through the process, I started learning a lot more and more, which has helped me a lot.
So what were some of those things that sorry, Lars, I just wanted to follow up on that because I think it's really interesting to hear about because one thing we've talked about a lot is Washington expanding its recruiting footprint and trying to go get players like you out of, just the South, the Midwest, that whole area of the country. And what were some of those things outside of coming on campus and doing that really did sell you out, developing Roma Dunze, or is it just that lineage of receivers? Or were there other factors as well?
I would say just the way that Jed Fish calls offense is an offensively based program made for QBs, wide receivers to excel in. So really just looking at their past of what the whole entire staff did at Arizona and then them carrying that over to Washington, I just feel like it's going to be a great upcoming program for me to fit into and also be one of the guys to be a big building block. So I think this 26th class will be a big building block for Washington for this upcoming years. But just the receivers that you can see that Kevin Cummings has developed in his past. Jacob Cowing is a great example. Kind of like not same size, but kind of same position that I would be playing like that they had him playing in Arizona. So really just that kind of sold me a lot. And a few other great receivers that he also brought up. But really just that one being the main guys, and also Jed Fish getting all the players the ball as tight ends, the receivers, and also everyone just having high receptions and high yards.
And so kind of just building off of that, two-parter here, did you ever hear from Kalen DeBoer and that old staff at Washington when they were at Washington? Because I know they offered you at Alabama, but did you ever hear from them when they were at Washington with Rome and those guys?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay, and so because I would assume you were a freshman or sophomore at that time, when did you kind of know football was going to be your thing? Because when we talked to Zamet, it was like 5 years old, he's throwing at MetLife, and I'm not saying we're comparing here, but there's clearly it seems like there's always a time when oh wait, I'm more than just fast, or I'm more than just athlete, better than some other guys my age.
So I would probably say about third grade. So first year of pads, I was playing running back, and then I was scoring like 3 touchdowns a game, 4 touchdowns a game. And then fifth grade, I was still playing running back, and that's when I seen like a really big jump. And I was scoring like 5 touchdowns a game, 4 touchdowns a game. And then middle school, I played quarterback, transition from running back to quarterback for middle school. And it was like I was taking over and really just like adapting the way to the game and learning all the positions. I just felt like I was really excelling at. And then getting on varsity my freshman year was like, okay, like I really got a shot at this football stuff. And coming out of Oklahoma, like when you were younger, like I was like, dang, all these like guys around me are getting offers and I'm not, like, what's going on? And I was always putting up these big numbers, but not really. I felt like I didn't really get like the recognition I deserved. So I would say sophomore year was like my breakout year. That's the year I switched to wide receiver. And that's when I started really doing my thing. And I'd say about game 5 of my sophomore year, I picked up my first offer. And ever since then, it just took off. Like I've been head down working. And that's been my whole life, just head down working, running my own race, not really paying attention to what everybody else got going on, but really just running my own lane and making sure what I need to do is the best I need to do.
So to kind of lead into what we really want to dive into around Washington, when you took that first unofficial visit trip up, that was for the junior day, correct?
Yes, sir.
Can you just tell me about that first experience coming on campus and just what it was like to meet the coaching staff and just really get a feel for what ended up being your future home?
So everyone was always like, once you go to that one campus, you're going to know like that's home and you're going to feel it in your heart. I was like, nah, that won't ever happen. Cause I've been on 20 or so, 30 or so visits so far. And, but when I set foot on Washington's campus, it was definitely different. Like I was walking in and they're like, hey, how are you doing, Mason? I'm like, I've never seen you before. Like, how do you know my name? But it was just like the love that I felt there and, how big of a priority I was for them, really just kind of sold me. And then all the good meetings I had, normally kids don't really like the meetings, but I really like to sit down with the coaches and see what they have broken up for me, just the film wise, and also seeing how KC coaches I really enjoyed. All right, that was the second time I went there, but that's part of it. Just seeing the way he adapts with his players, the way Jed Fish is really involved with this program and team just really sold me on that too. We're
going to hear more about all that right after the break. because we've got a message from our good friends over at Game Time. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it possible. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And I really appreciate it because Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, and it makes it easy to browse the app for any baseball game. For me personally, I just use the zone deals, which were fantastic, to get deals on the Boston Red Sox, my favorite team in town, to play the Seattle Mariners just a week ago, and that was an absolute blast. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Yeah, so Mason, what you were so interesting that kind of when we talk about the guys that you're now going to be recruiting in the class, when Washington brought in a trio of receivers with Derek Zam at the quarterback commit, you weren't among them, but yet you ended up being the first guy to commit of the, and you're still the only receiver to commit. I believe, Roman, correct me if I'm wrong there. But with that being said, how much have you gotten to know Derek, and kind of what was that dichotomy like? Knowing you were the only receiver coming in that weekend, but knowing that there were still other guys on the board as well.
Yeah, so me and Derek's relationship has been pretty good. It was kind of like before they had any quarterbacks commit, I was building a relationship with Brady and also Derek, and been close to both of them a lot. I haven't got to meet Derek in person yet, but really just over the phone, really just been hyping each other up on social media, DMing each other, asking how we're doing and whatnot. And really just I kind of thought a lot of receivers were going to commit that first weekend for their OV. And talked to a few of those guys. Took this visit early just because wanted to see what it was like, and also see what the other visits are looking like too. So really thought we were going to get a little bit more, but I think those guys are still filling a couple things out. But really recruiting Madden really hard. Daniel Odom, another receiver. There's a few more guys, but really just trying to get a few more receivers. But I think we're on the right track for sure.
So you don't have to go too much into this if you don't want to, but I'm really curious, what does that recruiting pitch look like for you now that you're on the other side of that with guys like Daniel Odom, Madden Williams that you just mentioned? Obviously, Derek Zamek came on and told us you don't want to put too much pressure on those guys, but from you being, the running mate at wide receiver, what does that look like on your end?
Really just trying to tell them the main thing for some people might be it's far, but really just think about it. You're going to be there for the 3-4 years of your life, to there to play football. Just enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be bigger opportunities. That was kind of my thing when I was coming out of Oklahoma. I'm 28 hours away. So really just a few of those other guys are maybe 8 to 10 hours away. Just the opportunities that you're going to have there is something completely different. Also with just not football, but also school-wise. You're also going to a really great school. So really just trying to help them understand where they fit in and how early of a chance they have to play really early, and also make a big impact for the team.
And so when you did come up for that visit, I mean, obviously it was, I think, your third trip up at that point, third or fourth, somewhere in that ballpark. So you got to know Seattle, being from Oklahoma. I'm going to do, Roman, check this out. We're going to do this live real quick. So not really sure where we stand on this one, but for the audio listeners, wearing a Sonics hat here. No offense to Mason, but just, what was your initial impression of Seattle, and kind of just on that visit, what did you get to experience here that you hadn't seen before?
Definitely different. I've never been around that much water. A little bit different weather change, pretty rainy. But I definitely something I enjoyed. I definitely love being in a big city. Good shopping, different kind of food for sure. It's really just different lifestyle, different people, but I feel like it's something you can adapt to. One of the things my dad told me was you got to go mature. I feel like it's a good opportunity for you to go grow up and become a better man. You know what I'm saying? So really just the great opportunities that I feel like I see there. Instead of being in maybe a small college town, it's a great experience that not everyone in the world can experience.
So obviously, you talk about experience, you get to go on that official visit and things are a little bit different. than the first couple times you get to step on campus. What were some of the things you might have enjoyed most about that? Where obviously, it's all about pageantry, no matter where you go and do that. But it feels like from everybody we've talked to, an official visit at Washington is unique because of the boat ride, because of some of those other things. What were some of those things that maybe stood out to you from that visit?
Really just getting to connect with the players. Those other 2 visits, I mean, they made it feel like official visits, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're getting the all-star treatment, and that's one of the reasons, like, nothing has really changed. Like, when I came on my official visit, like, I knew what it was. I just needed to secure a few more things before I committed. So really just talking through those small things. But the official visit was really great. I mean, the boat ride was great, talking with the players, talking with the coaches, families, their wives, their kids. Was just really great. And also just getting to spend time with the head coach and all the other guys who are also on the visit with you. And really, when like no one has anything bad to say, like, how can you turn it down? You know what I'm saying?
I was does that play kind of part of, when did you know? I guess I know we talked about it a little bit. We talked about the first visit. When was there, like, can you point to, like, that was the moment you're like, because obviously when you told Fish, I have to imagine the decision felt like it was made, like you said, you had to secure a few things. But did you, like, point to, like, either a day or, like, time in the visit when you're, like, sitting having dinner with Fish or Casey or whatever? And then side note, given that you're from Oklahoma, what are we now feeling food-wise down there, and what might you feel like you are going to have up here?
So I'd probably say the food. It's a little different, like a lot more seafood, you know what I'm saying? You still get your burgers and wings and stuff like that, but you probably don't get Waffle House, Whataburger, Cane's, stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? So it's kind of tough there. A few other good food spots, but I mean, there's also other really great foods that I can go out and experience my food canvas and stuff like that. So I'm always down to try some different good food. But
this might be blasphemous to you. You will find better spots than Whataburger here. You will absolutely find better spots than that.
I believe it. Sure.
Burger Master, shout out. Burger Master is one of the top ones. Please, Lars, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I'd be remiss. It seems like this isn't a shot at Roman. I always seem to remember this question. I know they do Legos. Like, they have a Lego activity on the official visit.
Yeah. What did you? Don't worry.
Okay, good. I was late, so shout out to everybody. I guess we'll peel back the curtain on that one. There you go. But just what did you build, and who did you get paired up with?
I was paired up with Sam and Jaron. Actually, all of us committed. So we built a dog house. So we had we built a great base and a great dog house. So the dog house represented, go Dogs, and the great base. We all felt like Washington had a really great program and a really great base, and we feel like it would never fall apart. You know what I'm saying? So all the coaches have been there. They all have a great connection. All been at past schools together, and all somehow have a great relationship. Like, it feels like none of those coaches are even like at work. Or that's what they all say also. So everyone's just having fun, having a great time. So that's what our project was.
So I know we got a couple minutes left here before we let you go. One thing that I'm really curious about, I think the fans would really appreciate this as well, is what are some things about Mason James that they need to know about you off the field? We got a good picture of what you look like on the field, but what are some other things that you think people need to know about you?
Yeah, I'm a great person. It might seem kind of tough to come up to me, but I'm really for the kids. I'm for the people. I'm for the fans. I'm for everyone. It's a really nice guy. I love doing fun hobbies. I love going fishing with my friends. I actually cut hair too, so I like doing that. I like being outdoors. I'm experiencing new things, and always down to have a talk with anyone. Always trying to give a helping hand and being one of the leaders on the team, and also off the field, just helping anyone in need, anything like that. Always want to be one of the more kind people in the world.
And so I guess what would kind of be, your if you're talking to Mason James in 2026, what's your message to him for partially Husky fans, but then also kind of, where do you see what's the next goal? Because obviously you got your destination, but to get there, there's a path along the way.
I'd say just keep your head down, keep working. Nothing's going to be handed to you. It's a whole new college world, so it's going to be a big step from high school, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready to try new things and be on the field with the older guys and really just be a leader. Even though you're going to be a young guy, you're going to be stepping into big shoes and have a really big opportunities to play early. So don't let up on the gas and really just work every single day and don't take any of your opportunities for granted. Keep thanking God, first of all. So.
Now, last thing for me here, do you have any plans to enroll early? Are you going to try to get on the field for spring practice, or are
Yes,
you
sir.
planning on arriving in June?
Yes, sir. I will be enrolling early.
And I just gotta know, are you a basketball fan at all? Did you ever, do we know the history?
So
I just had to get that in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Thunder, with them winning it all, I went to the parade. Didn't go to the game or the downtown after they won, but after the parade, it was pretty fun. Got to see all the players and everything like that. So.
But you're not like a big Thunder fan, right? You're not like a.
Not really. I mean, I didn't really start watching until playoffs or top 7.
That was the answer everybody in this area wanted to hear.
Yeah.
That was
all we needed. Again, nobody faults you for going to the parade, but as long as you didn't actually really care,
we took the Thunder from you guys. I forgot about that.
Mason, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. And on the other side of the break, Lars and I got some more recruiting stuff to talk about. Another big thank you to Mason James for coming on. Always a pleasure when we get to make interviews like that work. That was a lot of fun. He was fantastic. But Lars, we got to get to the rest of this 2026 class. There are a whole lot of things flying around right now that we need to get to. And one of them is something we've been asked about by our insiders, by the YouTube comments, and that's 4-star running back Brian Bonner. He has taken all his official visits, Nebraska, Penn State, UCLA being the other schools that are standing out. And we felt like it was kind of UCLA, especially after taking Dre Pollard, and we'll get to what that might mean for him in a sec, because the rumor flying around on UCLA's 247 page, I apologize, I don't remember which of their writers, moderators, I know Brandon Huffman was in on there a little bit, put it out there, but said he might be leaning toward Washington again. And I'm curious because obviously this is, the Jedfish staple of you don't turn down talent if talent wants to commit to you. But I'm curious how this might work if it were to happen, because we can't confirm the rumor that he might be leaning towards Washington. It might be true. We just cannot confirm that at this time.
No, but at the same point, it does, when we talk about Brian Bonner, makes sense in terms of relationships winning out. Mason James just talked about the relationship that he had with KC. It's the longer it plays out, as we've been saying, it benefits Washington, because if it is UCLA, it would have happened after that official visit, or, at least if there's plenty of smoke with that UCLA interest, where's the fire? You could easily commit it. UCLA in the backyard, like in Southern California, you're right there. Same thing with Mason. Oklahoma's right there, bro. Texas, right down the road if you want to go on the other side of the Red River rivalry. And so really it becomes a case of, again, once you get to December, this is when it truly matters. But if he ends up committing to Washington, I would feel more confident in him signing with Washington than if he commits to UCLA or Nebraska. Certainly, of that other group of schools there, Penn State's the one that worries me. I know UCLA kind of was, but it almost seems like, well, that's that Penn State one. It's like, ironically, we're talking about 4 Big Ten teams here. But of that 4, you're thinking, well, crazy, they're all Big Ten teams. But with that being said, Penn State would worry me since he hasn't committed to UCLA, because if it was going to be UCLA, it would have been UCLA by now. And the fact that, ironically, it's coming out from a UCLA site pro Washington, it's like, well, maybe somebody might have just tipped their hand there.
So I agree it certainly could have happened. It sounds like he might be close to setting a date for his commitment. I know July 1st was kind of, rolling around in the ether as maybe that was going to be the date. He might have pushed it back a little bit, but that's something to keep an eye on, because we should talk about what this means for Dre Pollard, where I think that Dre Pollard is a really talented prospect, and I like the way he fits in this Jedfish offense, as Mason James just alluded to how he fits in the Jedfish offense. And I just think it's one of those things where when we look at what Dre Pollard can do, it sounds like right now you want to take him as a running back. But I talked about it on the bonus show, where the benefit of taking an athlete like that is you can find a way to make it work no matter what you think he may be best at the next level. Where, say you do get Brian Bonner, it's very easy to just say, hey, we really love Dre Pollard, and maybe we'll still give him some reps at running back, but we want him to come in and play wide receiver, which he also does at the high school level. And with the top end speed that he has, maybe you can find a way to make that work on the outside. So I think that's something that is really, really beneficial about it. And then, you look at the defensive backfield, where originally the thought was maybe that's where he ends up committing. And, there's still the rumors of Devon Benjamin floating around out there, what he might be thinking. Rajon Duncan as well, the way you offer him kind of late, and the coaching staff seems to really be enamored with his film. So I think that might be the backup to the backup right now. But if you get a guy like Brian Bonner in the room, it's easy enough to say, yeah, we still really, really like Dre Pollard, but maybe we'll bring him in as a wide receiver. And then if it doesn't work out there, we can also try you out at running back. And it's just the benefit of taking talented athletes with great speed like he has.
And if you think about it with, Vance Paffrey going to Miami, maybe he's that second short wide receiver. You still have Mason James, and you go get, worth noting again, Mason James shouting out Madden Williams first, and then throwing in Daniel. No slight to Daniel there, but just where I stand in that Madden Daniel discussion there. Team Madden, no offense to Daniel, just there's something about Madden Williams seems to kind of draw that sort of star power. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing with Brian Bonner, with Jay Pollard, where I wish we could talk to Matt Doherty now about what do you see in this? Because I think we see it. Well, could you just explain it? He can't do that until December. But when he does, I have a feeling they're going to say, you know what? We might have 3 running backs. We might have 2 wide receivers, 3 wide. It doesn't matter where he ends up. It's a good problem to have. It's the discussion of, we'll try him here. If it doesn't work, not necessarily work, but if we don't need him there, whatever position, that's a good problem to have. You're not necessarily taking him as, oh, you know what, he's a great track athlete, but we don't really know what he can do with a football in his hands. No, you know what he can do with a football in his hands. It's because of that problem of what he can do with so many different things. That's kind of the position you're in, where take him as an athlete, straight up. Have him listed on the 20 sheet that UW's wonderful sports information department hands us, or before we go talk to Jed and Matt. Just have it say athlete. And say, what, he could play X, Y, and Z and figure it out later.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree with you more there. There are a couple other guys that I want to make sure we get to. And one of them is somebody who received his offer this past week. And Lars, you and I were talking about this off air the other day, just to really peel back the curtain. This is a guy whose name I've had my eye on for over a month. Shout out to Insider Coker, by the way. I think he was the one who just said, hey, make sure you keep an eye on this kid. Ta'a Malu from Annie Wright High School down in Tacoma. There's a lot of, layers to this recruitment, where he just gets his offer from Washington after he just finished up his first season of football, which is also Annie Wright High School's first season of football. So there's a lot to unpack there, where, you look at the ranking and it's in the 160s in defensive line. He's sitting right around, I think it's number 18 in the state of Washington right now in terms of the 247 sports rankings. So he's not a very highly rated prospect. And with the way Washington has missed on defensive line recruits so far in the cycle, we'll talk about TI Umu-Cais in a minute, but with the way Washington has missed out on some of their top targets so far, people are going to look at this offer and say, oh, that's a backup to a backup offer. And, there's certainly an argument to be made there, but also he's got a Utah offer, which, the everydayers know where you and I stand on Utah's talent evaluation, especially when it comes to defensive players. So I think that's a telling sign in and of itself. And backstory here, he did a phenomenal interview. I believe it was with our good buddy Scott Eklund over at Dogman. And one of the things he said was, yeah, this was my first season playing football as well. I hadn't really considered it because I was training in jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai to go be a professional UFC fighter. And he said he was on track to do that, which is just enamoring from just a standpoint of, oh, wow, like this kid is a physical, violent, explosive athlete. And you watch his film and it shows that. And this is somebody who, you're taking him and saying, this is the number 1 defensive lineman we're getting in this class. That's a different discussion to be had. But as somebody who can be a supplemental take, and maybe, you go out and flip some guys like you have alluded to, there's a way to make a take like this work no matter what, because this is the kind of kid at 6'4", close to that 285 pounds, with how explosive he is, the way he moves, the way he already understands how to use his hands to do a couple other things. He's a very, very raw prospect who probably wouldn't see the field for a couple of years, no matter where he goes to play football. But if you take a kid with that kind of upside and you are still able to go out and get a TI Umu-Cais and flip a Kari Wilder or a Fasiale or whoever else it may be to help supplement your defensive line, taking somebody in just like that sort of mold of a long-term projectable guy with all those elite traits is very intriguing to me personally.
This is a case of trust your evaluation straight up. Like you mentioned absolutely. Utah. I obviously Utah's kind of a co-signer in that situation. But I think it's more than, applicable. And you think about Victor Sanchez Hernandez, a guy who I think is black belt in Taekwondo, or there's a martial arts background somewhere in there.
who's going to compete for the Olympics. Like he's a high-level athlete in that regard.
You're not just talking about, oh, hey, he's a high school wrestler who's, and again, that's not a wrestler. No, that's not a site. But I'm saying there's a high school wrestler, not a 50-0 like a Dominic Macon or Omar Khan. Those guys, they're at the top of their game as well. So I'm not saying. I'm saying it's not just I'm a two-sport athlete. I kind of cross-train, use this as or lacrosse. Since I played lacrosse, it's one of those. I'm not going to go pro in lacrosse, but it's a good cross-trainer. No, this is you're talking at the top of the level. So yeah, you might only have a couple of offers, but what about now? I was going to say that's my point. It's just not. It might read as, oh wow, that's a backup, like you said, backup to the backup to the backup, but in reality, it's not actually the case, and especially when no matter who you get in the class, if again this is the old cliche, if he ends up being the best defensive lineman, who cares? First of all, it's 1 of 85, and it's going to be 1 of 4 or 5, if not 6 or 7 takes along the defensive line when it's all said and done.
So I want to make sure we spend 60 seconds here on TI Umu-Cais at the end of this, but I firmly believe that this is an offer that no matter how this defensive line class plays out, you take him. Now, this is the best example I can give where the way I think about it is at the end of I believe it was either 2019 or 2020 class, Washington goes out and offers and flips Sam Peacock, a high ceiling 3-star offensive tackle from, I believe he went to Gig Harbor, somewhere flips him away from Oregon State, and just says, this is a high-end projectional tackle. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out, but you can find a way to bring him in the program and try to find a way to make it work, which you want to take a couple of those guys every year. And I think Ta'a Malu is the perfect example of how that could work out well. Now, Lars, before we get out of here, I want 30 seconds of your thoughts. I'll give mine at the end about 4-star defensive tackle TI Umu-Cais, who might be coming to a decision here soon.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying he's going to Washington, but this is one where, okay, Kari Wilder's one thing. You got a couple schools factored in there. You look at the schools that TI Umu-Cais is down, or no slight, but Colorado State. There's a few others
Colorado,
in that
UNC.
Yeah, and again, you look at, kind of just seems like Washington's always made sense the most to him. And, again, that's one where no matter who you don't get, Derek was the obvious one. Kari would have been nice. Getting TI is a requisite no matter what happens. No matter future of the position entirely be, throughout the window. TI is a guy where if you're Jed, this is on, I'm not saying it's on Jed, but that's when you look at Ryan Walsh and say, you're the head coach of the defense. You need to secure this one. And if it takes Jed having a extra connection with him, that's more the merrier. This is one you must get.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. This is the kind of guy where, we know Kari Wilder was the number one target in terms of that versatile defensive lineman that could do a whole bunch of things. TI Umu-Cais is the number one defensive tackle on the board. You and I have said it. I've heard it from scouts in multiple recruiting departments around the country that TI Umu-Cais is the best defensive tackle west of Texas. This is a guy who, when you look at as you said, the future of that position, you find a way to make it work with this kind of guy. And with some of the losses you've suffered, it doesn't completely absolve you from all those things, but it goes a long way towards saying we can still build a really strong defensive line class between now and December. And just to tie it in with Ta'a Malu, if you're able to, get TI Umu-Cais and say, this is a guy who can play for you next year, it kind of, I don't want to say it eases the blow, because it just kind of takes pressure off of taking a guy like that, where it's, okay, now you can sit behind a Dominic Macon, who you referenced, and a Victor Sanchez Hernandez, and you just find ways to let your coach, it's, the discussion you and I had the other day, you have the guy who's going to play for you right away, and you find a way to make that work. And you also have the guys who it's, hey, we trust our coaching staff to make something out of this guy who might have gone underrated or under-recruited for one reason or another. So there are a lot of moving parts there on the defensive line, and something to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks and months. And Lars, the best place for all those everydayers to do that is right here on Locked On Huskies. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all everydayers tuning in. We really do appreciate all your support, and the best way to make sure you're up to date, like I said, with everything regarding recruiting and just Husky athletics as a whole. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. We're there. We're everywhere. We're updating the channel with new content every single day. So make sure you click that like button, click that little bell so you never miss when we post a new video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, drop them right down below in the comment section. And if you're audio only, please leave us a 5-star review, as it does help us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk to you on Monday.